can start, I think. You're a class clown? Okay. Well, you can make people laugh and I'll make people laugh too. All right, so just a little intro. I've been in crypto since 2017. So actually late 2016, so almost going on 6 years. As a technology background person, software engineer, it's pretty easy for me to see some of the value that we have in the technological advancement that we call cryptocurrencies. So what we're going to cover today, let me just make sure my mic's working good. Yeah, okay. So first we're going to have a little disclaimer. Why crypto? So crypto's use cases, what crypto solves, a little bit of a history on where it came from and the current state of the dollar. We're going to have some terms and definitions, actually quite a few. So do a deep dive on those terms. And then something called tokenomics, which is kind of the economics of cryptocurrency. And in there, we're going to talk really about what makes a good cryptocurrency. So what are the qualifications for something good in crypto? And then we will have some time for Q&A at the end. So the disclaimer, what is this class? My goal is to educate you all and impart understanding so that you can do your own research with a solid foundation so that you can make informed decisions. What this is not is financial advice. This is not financial advice. No investment, regardless of the mechanism, is risk-free. By attending, you must accept all risk and liability of your own decisions. So presenting facts about previous crypto price movement is not a guarantee that this is going to happen again. Okay, so Sean put me up to this, but I thought that this was a funny image. I don't know if you can all read.
I didn't put you up to it.
No.
I asked if this would be part. What's it say?
It says, thanks for inviting me to your event. Hey, I'm glad you could make it. Of course, but that what is this event for? It didn't say on the invitation. That's because I wanted to surprise you with the opportunity of a lifetime. And then he's got some multi-level marketing chart that says, how would you like to be your own boss?
Only asked the question. Didn't say.
All right, so why crypto? First and foremost, the biggest reason why crypto is interesting is its price appreciation. Crypto is the fastest appreciating asset class in history. Since Bitcoin's inception in 2010, the asset has seen its price rise from just a few cents to an all-time high of $69,000, which represents millions of percent interest return on investment. In 2010, the first known purchase using Bitcoin was recorded as 2 pizzas, which cost 10,000 Bitcoin, with a current value of $200 million. Now, that's what I call an expensive dinner. Nothing else in history even gets close to the returns that can be made within such a short period. I strongly believe that if you can get crypto right, it can be the ticket that can provide life-changing financial freedom. Second thing is timing and volatility. In crypto in general, it is how long you are in the market or time in the market, not trying to time the market or trade. Most people that bought Bitcoin in 2010 probably sold at $10, $20, $30, and they were ecstatic. And those that bought in 2011 probably sold at 200 and were psyched, only to find out later that they could have made exponentially more by holding for a few more years. As with any investment, the goal would be to buy low and sell high, but this is one asset class that if history continues to repeat itself, you may want to hang on to it for a while. So volatility, on the flip side of massive gains, since Bitcoin's all-time high of 69,000 in November 21, it has since dropped to 17,500. On its way to 69,000, Bitcoin lost 85% of its value several times, only to go on and make all new all-time highs. In 2017, Bitcoin hit 20,000. And then as a market crash hit, the price dropped down to just over 3,000. Then the market will back up to 65,000, crash back down to 28,000, back up to 69,000. And now we're at 17. And now it's been as low as 17,000, currently sitting around 22,000. So these cycles form a pattern. And if you can learn to make logical decisions when everybody else is reacting in fear, you can pick up some greatly discounted digital assets during these dips. Volatility is crypto's middle name, and you need to set your expectations accordingly. But with big swings comes big opportunity. However, crypto can be stressful at times. So another reason why crypto is important. It is censorship resistant. Many of us followed the Canadian truckers earlier this year as they made their way across Canada to Ottawa in protest of vaccine mandates and other draconian overreaches. Many of these truckers and other people that were not truckers donated to GoFundMe's as a fundraiser to help the truckers that had lost income. Well, in an Orwellian response, the Canadian government seized the bank accounts of many that had donated, even though they had not even in person participated in these protests. So this type of monetary censorship caused people to lose jobs and homes, and this took place in what most would consider a pretty civilized country. Crypto solves the potential for this problem by removing all middlemen. There is no bank in the crypto equation, so there is no one and no way to seize your funds on behalf of a government gone mad. Crypto is governmentless money. It is for the people, by the people, and completely outside of government control. Crypto is also very secure. Crypto uses state-of-the-art encryption to securely transfer and verify every transaction as legitimate. There is almost no risk of ever receiving a fake crypto. Cryptos cannot be forged or double spent. And this is the government learning how to stop crypto. All right, so what solutions does crypto provide? And first, a little history. So the first cryptocurrency was Bitcoin, the first and most widely known cryptocurrency. It was invented by a pseudonym named Satoshi Nakamoto to be a peer-to-peer, censorship-free form of digital cash. Bitcoin also appears as its ticker symbol, BTC. They are interchangeable. There is a maximum number of Bitcoin, 21 million, that can ever be created. And there are currently 19 million Bitcoin in circulation. The remaining 2 million Bitcoin will be minted through inflation as miners solve complex cryptographic puzzles which secure the network, receiving a mining reward in the form of Bitcoin for their work. We'll talk about that process a little bit more in a minute. So every few years, the Bitcoin reward that these miners receive gets cut in half. It's roughly every 4 years. And what happens is this decreases the reward that the miners receive, and it will essentially continue to approach 21 million, but probably never get all the way there. Bitcoin has also been touted as digital gold because it has really failed to become a true currency, but it has really performed well in the idea of being a store of value. Still volatile, but it is more of a store of value than a currency. So if you want Bitcoin, when was the best time to buy it? Well, when Satoshi Nakamoto owned 100% of all the coins. but that was long gone. And so when is the second best time to buy on an 85% dip in a bear market? Next, we have this is the Bitcoin price chart over time from its inception, or as early as I could find charts for it. And you can see that while it is volatile, and what you must know about this is that all of these charts that I'm going to show you have the logarithmic scale, which means that it's essentially represents a percentage gain. So from the bottom to the top, we see pretty huge, I don't know if you can see this on there. From the top here to here is actually a pretty huge drop. That's an 85% drop. But in general, the trend is very much upward. So, my next funny meme. All right, so the next cryptocurrency we're going to talk about, just a brief history, is called Ethereum. One thing I must note is these coins, they are they're kind of a token of just it's not a real thing. If somebody sells you a Bitcoin and it's physical, you got gypped. But they do look cool, so that's why they're here. So Ethereum was invented by a man named Vitalik Buterin. He was frustrated by the lack of functionality and usefulness of Bitcoin, and he invented that in 2013. Ethereum was developed as a platform for other cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency-related projects to be built on top of. Ethereum's ticker symbol is ETH, and being a platform, Ethereum is also home to many hundreds of what we call ERC20 tokens and NFTs, which we'll talk about a little bit more later too. You can think of this platform as the ability to program money. While vastly more useful than Bitcoin, Ethereum does have many downfalls. The greatest concern is that Ethereum network tends to get overwhelmed by the ever-increasing traffic, which results in slow transactions and extremely high transaction fees. This is not something easily remedied, although it is something the Ethereum developers are working on improving. So this is the Ethereum price chart. It has not been around quite as long. It was invented in 2013, but I don't think that I was able to get data going back. So this is back to August 2015. But similar, very much up and to the right, which is what you want to see on a price chart. All right, so we're going to talk about kind of the problems that we're dealing with and why cryptocurrency can be a useful solution. So we currently, in our world, are dealing with inflation and debasement. We are all well aware of the rising inflation that is caused by the insane monetary policy where the printers are never turned off. Inflation refers to the ever-increasing supply of money. Fun fact for you, it took 100 years to print the first $1 trillion. In March 2020, $8 trillion was printed in a single weekend. This is not sustainable. Due to the increasing supply, we experience debasement, which is the ever-decreasing purchasing power of the currency. Inflation is the cause, debasement is the effect. Even high interest rate CDs, certificate of deposit at a bank, which would typically pay somewhere 2 to 3% range, or retirement accounts and stocks and mutual funds, even if they are earning 5, 6, 7%, you are losing purchasing power when compared to the rate of debasement every day of the year. So even though you may be generating a profit, you could be losing purchasing power. Crypto holds governments accountable, as most crypto projects have a fixed supply. The debasement of a national currency becomes very obvious when the prices of crypto continues to soar. And here is kind of a chart of, this is from the St. Louis Federal Reserve. This is a chart of the United States dollar monetary supply over time. So the x-axis is billions of dollars, and these are small numbers, but it's 0, 4,000, so that'll be 4 trillion, 8 trillion, 12 trillion, going up to 24 trillion. And on the bottom, the y-axis, we have time, which starts at 1955 and ends in 2022. And you can see on the very right, this like completely vertical, that was $8 trillion in a single weekend. So if this is not hyperinflation, then I don't know what is. So we must have a hedge against the dollar. The dollar has enjoyed its status as a world reserve currency for many decades now. That is due to an agreement that the United States made with Saudi Arabia in the 1970s. In that scenario, we offered Saudis military protection in exchange for all OPEC oil, which stands for oil producing countries. Oil producing and exporting countries. So that's basically the Middle East. So all Middle Eastern oil must be sold in dollars. This resulted in the term the petrodollar. If any country wants OPEC oil, they must first acquire United States dollars to buy it. This creates a large demand for dollars, increasing its value, supply and demand. However, we face a difficult situation because to add fuel to the fire that we're already fighting with inflation and debasement, the BRICS nations, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have teamed up with Saudi Arabia, and they have announced plans to ditch the petrodollar in favor of a new blockchain-based currency that is backed by a basket of commodities and other currencies. No country will have to have US dollars to buy OPEC oil anymore. And the day that that happens, it will be like a financial category 10 hurricane. Yes, I know that the rating only goes up to 5. There will literally be a flood of dollars coming back to the United States, creating an even greater hyperinflation type event that only the wise are preparing for. Only assets that are not dollars are likely to survive. Proverbs 27:12 in the New Living Translation says, "A prudent person foresees danger and takes precaution. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences." So if we know that these BRICS nations are planning, and even if their plans fall through, the rate at which inflation and debasement is happening, we must prepare if we are prudent. So, terms and definitions. We are going to go through, I think, 60 terms and definitions. And just FYI, if you have questions on the topic that we're talking about, feel free to ask in that moment. Otherwise, if we've kind of passed it, let's save that for the end. What's your question?
Is there going to be a chance to go back through some of the stuff that we missed, or like a way?
I'm recording this, so you can watch this as many times as you want.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, what is a cryptocurrency? A cryptocurrency is a currency that only exists on the internet. It is a digital asset that uses cryptography to secure the network upon which the assets exist. Crypto was primarily invented to remove counterparty risk through a peer-to-peer network. Well, what is cryptography? You'll find I'm using terms that I will then define later, but if we get to the end and I haven't defined a term, feel free to ask. What is cryptography? Cryptography in general is the practice and study of techniques for secure communication in the presence of adversarial behavior. This could be something like the attempted tampering or forgery of an asset. various aspects of information security, such as data confidentiality, data integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation, are central to modern cryptography. Right, so cryptocurrency was invented to remove counterparty risk. What is counterparty risk? Counterparty risk is the chance that a party involved in a transaction may not fulfill their side of the contractual obligation. Any transaction that involves you trusting another party incurs counterparty risk. So this has to do with trust. If you have to trust somebody, there's counterparty risk. Peer-to-peer. Cryptocurrencies are all peer-to-peer. This means that they are sharing of information and or resources via a transaction directly without relying on any middleman or centralized authority. What is a transaction? Well, in blockchain terms, a transaction is a record of a digital operation or an exchange of information or value. A transaction would be created when sending crypto from one party to another, or swapping one crypto for another. And each transaction incurs a network fee, also known as a gas fee. What is gas? Gas is the fuel that makes a network run. It's essentially the network fee paid to in a blockchain's native coin. So if you send Bitcoin, a little bit of your Bitcoin goes toward paying that fee. If you send Ethereum, a little bit of your Ethereum is paid to the Ethereum network. When you send a token on a blockchain, you must first have that blockchain's native coin in order to pay for the gas. Earlier I mentioned, and we'll get a little bit more into it a little bit, but Ethereum has tokens upon it. It's a platform. And if you send a token from one address to another, the gas fee is paid in Ethereum. So if you are holding a token, you must also have Ethereum in order to transfer that token from one user to another. When a blockchain is full of activity, the gas price goes up. If you pay a higher gas price, your transactions block will get a confirmation more quickly. A portion of that gas fee is paid to miners or validators. We're going to go through all of these terms. If you don't know what those mean, just hang tight. All right, so centralized. In a centralized system, all of the decisions are made by a leader of the organization or a small board of decision makers. Often, a small group of decision makers given control will result in abuse, and the decisions that are made often end up in the best interests of the decision makers themselves. Banks and totalitarian governments are a good example of a centralized system. What is a blockchain? A blockchain is a digital distributed ledger that contains transactions that can simultaneously be used and shared within a large decentralized, publicly accessible network. The blockchain is comprised of sequential blocks of transactions, which are chained together using cryptography. There are many blockchain networks, most notably Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Stellar, and the upcoming Pulse chain. There are many more than that, but those are some of the top ones. Well, what is a distributed ledger? A distributed ledger is really just a database, digital database that is used similar to the way that a ledger is used in accounting for the purpose of maintaining a list of transactions of debits and credits. This ensures that no user can double spend. In order to prevent tampering, many thousands of redundant copies of these databases exist on nodes scattered throughout the world. If one node gets destroyed, there are backup copies on the other nodes to assure that an accurate record goes forward. If a node tampers with its copy of the database in an attempt to increase the digital asset holdings of a particular address, the other nodes will quickly notice the discrepancy and reject the tampering node's record. All right, so we talked about centralized. Decentralized is the opposite of centralized. Since blockchains are decentralized, there is no leader. There is no board of decision makers. This means that when a decision needs to be made about the validity of a transaction or a block, the blockchain nodes must arrive at an agreement via what's called a consensus mechanism. What is a block? A block is simply a group of transactions between parties. They don't have to be the same parties. It could be 50 different parties sending transactions to each other, and they can all be grouped together in a block. A block has a predetermined amount of information that it can store. The more complex that a transaction is, the less transactions that can be stored in a block. Blocks must first be verified as containing only valid transactions before they are distributed across the blockchain to the nodes. The transactions in a verified block are stored on the nodes efficiently and in a trustless and immutable way. Well, what does trustless mean? In blockchain terminology, trustless really refers to a system where we do not have to trust a stranger, an institution, or a third party for a payment system to function as we had hoped. The system itself is verifiable and provable. This means that there are no more bounce checks or I'm good for it when there really aren't. You can verify for yourself on a blockchain explorer. Well, what does immutable mean? Immutable simply means that it is permanent. It is not capable or susceptible to change. Once an immutable transaction exists on a blockchain, it can never be reverted or modified. This is great because too many systems are, there's gaming and there's corruption, and this prevents that from happening. Nodes. Nodes are computer servers that store a copy of the complete blockchain. And when I say the complete blockchain, remember there are many blockchains. I'm just saying of a particular blockchain, they keep a full copy of that blockchain. Usually a node would be participating in only one network. And these nodes participate in the consensus mechanism, verifying blocks on the network. So what is consensus? Since blockchains are decentralized, a means by which decision-making is made by a group requires a dynamic way of reaching agreement. While voting just settles for a majority rule without any thought for the feelings or well-being of the minority, a consensus, on the other hand, makes sure that an agreement is reached which could benefit the group as a whole. The goal in consensus is to solve the Byzantine generals problem. And that is a very complicated thing, which we're not going to get into today. But that is, it's a very interesting problem, a very difficult problem to solve that had never been solved before cryptocurrency was invented. So if you're interested in that, I recommend just searching Byzantine generals problem. You'll find all kinds of videos on YouTube to explain it. So, proof of work. Proof of work, or POW, is a consensus mechanism that pays miners to perform energy inefficient calculations to solve arbitrary cryptographic puzzles. The puzzles have been designed in a way that makes it difficult and taxing on the miners, which deters attempts to game the system. When a miner correctly solves the puzzle by generating the correct hash, they present their block to the network nodes for verification. When the nodes verify that the miner's hash matches the hash of the most recent block, the miner is awarded newly minted crypto coins as their reward for their work, and the block receives a confirmation. Well, a miner, definition of a miner is a participant in a proof of work consensus mechanism. Miners compete against each other by generating massive numbers of hashes, essentially trying to guess the hash of the most recent block. Each guess takes a lot of computation to generate, and it is almost always wrong. But every once in a while, a guess is right, and this results in a payday for the correct guesser or miner. Mining often requires specialized and expensive hardware, such as GPUs or graphics processing units, and or ASICs, which stands for application-specific integrated circuits. And these use a ton of electrical power, and they generate a lot of heat. Only a few cryptocurrencies support mining with average computers. Well, what is a hash? These hashes that the miners are generating, what is that? It is essentially a digital signature. If a phrase or a set of data is put through a hash function, which is a cryptographic function, which, by the way, Bitcoin uses a hash function called SHA-256. This set of data put through the hash function will generate a unique signature known as a hash. A hash cannot be converted back to the original data that created the hash. So it's a one-way function. In contrast, encrypted data can be converted back to the original data if the correct key or password is used. So encryption is a two-way cryptographic function. A hash is just a one-way function.
Who has the password? The owner?
In an encryption?
When you're reverting back.
So most of cryptocurrency doesn't actually use true encryption. It uses hashing. So it's a one-way thing. There are things that are encrypted, and we'll get to that more like in the wallet section. Okay, a confirmation. What is a confirmation? Confirmation is simply an assurance that the block receiving the confirmation is valid. As more miners validate the blocks, more confirmations will be issued. The more confirmations a transaction has, the surer that you can be that no tampering has occurred. Usually, one or two confirmations is enough to know that there have been no tampering. And we have proof of stake. Proof of stake is a different consensus mechanism that uses nodes called validators. These validators mine block transactions according to how many tokens or coins the validator node holds. The more coins or tokens that are held in the wallet of the validator, essentially the more mining power that is granted to that validator. Proof of stake is far less resource intensive, and it creates incentive for validators to hodl coins or tokens and not use them. Due to the laws of supply and demand, holding tokens decreases the circulating supply. This provides increased price stability and often price increase. For their role in decreasing circulating supply and validating blocks, validators receive awards. Proof of stake consensus is generally much faster and has much cheaper gas fees. You sleepy Robert? Validators. Validators are nodes that are responsible for confirming blocks of transactions in exchange for an award, usually in the form of their transaction fees. Anyone can set up a validator by staking a minimum number of coins or tokens, but they must keep their computer on and connected to the internet 24/7 to receive awards. What is staking? Staking is the act of locking up coins or tokens in a trustless, remember trustless, we don't have to trust anybody, usually time-delayed smart contract. The staker generally locks up their assets in order to generate some type of award, interest called yield. In order to unstake assets, usually the staker must wait a few days to get their coins or tokens back, which means that they cannot take immediate action when volatile price movements. All right, so what is a coin? Coin is the general term for the native digital asset of a given blockchain. Crypto coins are generally divisible into at least 8 decimal places. In contrast, the dollar, we can only divide that up into 100 units, less than $1, which we call cents. Different cryptocurrencies have different terms for their smallest unit. Bitcoin's is called a Satoshi, and Ethereum's is called a Gwei. But one Satoshi is a 0.7 zeros and then a 1. So it's 1/10,000,000th, I think, of a Bitcoin.
So instead of buying $17,000 Bitcoin, you could buy
You can buy a very, very small fraction. You do not need to buy an entire any coin. They are all divisible at least to 8 decimal places. And you can purchase a fraction. What is a token? A token is the term used for a digital asset created by a project or organization that's built on top of a blockchain. So a blockchain has its coins. That's the native coin of the blockchain. And then you have projects built on top of the blockchain, which they issue tokens. Not all blockchains support tokens, though, because not all blockchains are built as platforms for development. There are several types of tokens, the most common being ERC20 and ERC721, which are also known as NFTs. So what is an ERC20 token? An ERC20 token is really, it's a token issued for the Ethereum blockchain, and it is essentially a set of standards or protocol set forth by the Ethereum blockchain to interact with that parent blockchain. NFTs. NFTs are, they're called non-fungible tokens. And theoretically, they are able to provide proof of ownership, somewhat like the title deed to a car or a home. The holder of the NFT owns the thing that the NFT references on the blockchain. In practice, though, NFTs are very loosely tied to a serial number of a Bored Ape or CryptoPunk image. They're literally pictures, which may or may not be modifiable by the artist at any time. People literally pay millions of dollars for these images. And I believe that this current use case is likely to fail because it's too easy to screenshot. Somebody can copy it, even if you own the rights to it. It's too easy to steal. Someone would be better off paying the millions for a real piece of art, very hard to duplicate. Anyway. But there is promise in the NFT protocol to use it to digitize things like home and car titles, even to gain access to exclusive clubs or areas. You could provably own access. Next thing we're going to talk about is stablecoins. Stablecoins are designed to counteract the volatility of the crypto space. The value of a stablecoin is pegged to the value of a fiat currency, such as the United States dollar. Some stablecoins are backed by actual fiat currency in a bank somewhere, whereas others algorithmically change the total supply of the stablecoin in order to maintain that fiat peg. So they'll create and destroy cryptocurrency on an as-needed basis in order to maintain a stable value. These are useful if you want to mitigate risk, especially if you expect a large drop in prices coming. So the benefit here is that you could trade out of one cryptocurrency and into a stablecoin without having to actually sell crypto. You can still keep it in a crypto wallet, that type of thing. So a blockchain explorer. Remember earlier I said that cryptocurrency was invented to be trustless and that we can verify these things. So to verify things, we would use a blockchain explorer. It's a tool used to investigate, verify, and explore a given blockchain. Using a blockchain explorer is the primary method used to see whether a transaction of yours or somebody else has received confirmation. Explorers can also be used to verify your cryptocurrency balances given the address of your wallet or the holdings of other wallets. What is a smart contract? A smart contract is unlike a paper or verbal contract. A smart contract only exists in a digital format. In a smart contract, the need for a middleman or escrow is removed, since the technology itself automates that role by writing the contract into immutable lines of code locked upon its creation. If one party meets the conditions of the contract, the other party's obligations will automatically be executed in a completely trustless way. So people lie. Trustless and immutable smart contracts don't. In order to interact with a smart contract, a transaction must be initiated, and the initiator must pay the gas fee.
So is there an online interface or application specialized in stable coins? An easy way to access and use those?
An exchange would be the way that you would access those, so or trade into them.
Any exchange?
Most exchanges have a stable coin. Yep.
I'm cool.
So we referred to a wallet. So what is a wallet? A wallet is a digital interface that you use to view and send cryptocurrencies. Your wallet holds the cryptographic key to your digital safe. The safe is stored on the nodes in a distributed fashion. So remember, this is a distributed system. So your money is never really held on your anything. It's always everywhere. But you have the key to access it. Without the key, it's impenetrable safe. So only the holder of the private key stored within the wallet has access to spend or withdraw from that safe. The private key in your wallet is generated from something called a seed phrase. And this access to your wallet should be highly protected using a password. So your wallet would typically be encrypted, and using the password which you define, you would lock access to it, just like any other system where you would use a password. So there are several types of wallets, and this is one of the most important things that you must learn. There are custodial wallets. These are also known as online wallets, and these are the least secure type of wallet. This type of wallet incurs counterparty risk. Remember, counterparty risk is the risk associated with somebody else, another party, having to fulfill their end of the agreement. And crypto was invented to avoid it. So Satoshi Nakamoto would roll over in his grave, or he may be alive, I don't know.
I have no proof of that.
That's true. So in this scenario, somebody else controls the private keys. And this type of wallet should only be used in short-term transitional purposes. Custodial wallets include any on or off ramps, such as Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, Uphold, Robinhood. All of these are examples of custodial wallets. Then we have what's called a software wallet. This is more secure. In this case, you retain control over your private keys. A software wallet is a free app that runs on your phone or computer and provides a user-friendly interface, well, some more than others, but it's an interface to interact with your cryptocurrencies. However, being software, if your computer or your phone with your wallet on it ever got compromised by a virus or a hacker, your assets could be stolen from afar.
In terms of security, where would you rank these as a letter grade?
So a custodial wallet, in my opinion, would be a F. Okay. Like it's invented.
Rethink it to do.
Yeah.
How about Robinhood?
Actually, in the case of Robinhood does, unless something has recently changed, they don't even allow you to withdraw your money. So it's, in my opinion, Robinhood is not a real cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency was invented to be able to be the bank where you retain custodianship over it. And Robinhood doesn't allow you to withdraw, as far as I know. That may have changed since I last saw, but if they did, that's new. So in that case, it's just a number on a screen, just like your online banking. You're trusting that when you go to the bank withdraw, that's going to work.
So you'd have to sell your coin to get back to US dollar.
Yes. Yep. And then you could use that US dollar to go to a real exchange that allows you to take custodianship over your cryptocurrency.
Related to that software is how much of an improvement?
Software, I would say, is a B+.
Okay.
It's a pretty significant, like the difference between holding your own keys and being in a custodial wallet is massive.
Wow.
Huge, huge, huge. Okay, so any other questions so far?
Well, it's a little too early for this, obviously, but in terms of software, do you have some general recommendations? I know that.
Yep, I'm going to give you some.
Okay, great.
So the issue with software, though, is that it could be compromised by a virus or hacker, and your funds could be stolen if your device ever got compromised. So I recommend that if you have less than $2,000 in crypto assets, software wallet is perfectly fine. Examples of good software wallets: one is called Exodus. One is called MetaMask. We're going to use MetaMask next class. One's called Electrum. That's really only a Bitcoin wallet. Exodus is nice because it allows you to store many types of cryptocurrencies. You can store Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, XRP. All of these different cryptocurrencies can be stored within Exodus. So it's one nice interface that gives you the ability to store lots of different coins. Whereas Electrum, Mycelium, these are ones that only store Bitcoin. There is also Coinbase Wallet. Now, Coinbase Wallet must not be confused with Coinbase. Coinbase Wallet is a software wallet that does actually give you control over your private keys, whereas Coinbase does not. Okay, then we have what we call a paper wallet. It is more secure than a software wallet. You retain control over your private keys. However, convenience and user friendliness is almost non-existent. The paper would have to be physically stolen in order for your assets to be stolen. And there are websites that can generate paper wallets for you, although it is recommended when using those that you disconnect from the internet, you load the page, disconnect from the internet, generate your wallet, print it out, and then close the site before you reconnect from the internet. Just in case your computer has a virus or something, you want to make sure that it can't screenshot or keylog or whatever. Then we have a hardware wallet. Hardware wallet is the most secure for general purposes. You retain full control over your private keys. A hardware wallet is a physical device, often with a small little screen, that is used as part of the way that you interact with your assets. Software is usually involved also, but the physical device must be present in order to complete a transaction. So hardware wallets are a form of two-factor authentication. I don't know if anybody's used that, but it is a form of two-factor authentication. And it requires physical buttons to be pressed. So any hacking attempts from afar are impossible, because they can't push buttons over the internet.
Probably a non-issue, but any idea on the range of cost of a hardware wallet?
Yep, I'm going to give you a couple examples. So examples include one called a ledger, which I have. So this is what a ledger looks like. Ledger. So it's got a little screen. When you turn it on, it will have a PIN code that you have to put in. You can put up to 8 digits. Only after you unlock it is it able to, you can actually use it to sign transactions. If you enter the correct PIN 3 times, it erases itself. So if somebody were to hold you at gunpoint or whatever, you just give them the thing, oh, I'm so stressed, I can't remember. And then you tell them 3 times wrong and it'll be erased. So these are, that's a ledger. There's also a Trezor. There's something called a Cool Wallet Pro. And there's a new one that's super secure called it's called an Engrave Zero. Engrave Zero. Now the Ledger and the Trezor, those range from I think $60. I think there's 2 types of Ledger. There's a Ledger Nano S and a Ledger Nano X. This is a Nano X. It has Bluetooth, so you can use it with your phone. Ledger Nano S must be connected with a USB cord. And then the Engrave, that's like it's like 350 or 400 euros, which a euro's roughly equal to $1 now, but it's pretty expensive. But that is by far more secure because that it uses a QR code system with a camera. It has no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or USB that is ever connected to a device, so it's completely offline. What was your question, Robert?
If a key does get wiped, does that mean that
If a ledger gets wiped?
if a ledger gets wiped, that's
I'm gonna-
where all of your
Yeah, I'm going to address that when we get to a seed phrase. Okay, and then the last type of wallet that we're going to talk about is called a multi-sig wallet. This is maximum security, but it's totally overkill for most users. This type of wallet requires multiple people to approve the transaction before it can be submitted to the blockchain. You can think of this as like multiple people being able to like launch a nuclear device, right? You got the president, 2 generals that all have to sign off on it before something crazy happens. So, but this is really great if you're very wealthy and you want to distribute responsibility to multiple executors. That way you don't have to trust one executor to do what you wanted after you pass. And you can have that responsibility distributed across many people. This is really only recommended if you have more than $1 million in crypto.
So what about those cards like you can find on Amazon?
That would qualify as a hardware wallet.
That's a hardware wallet? Okay.
Yeah, probably. If it's not, it's probably very similar to a Cool Wallet Pro. Cool Wallet Pro comes in like a credit card type format. It's got a little screen on it, like super flat. I don't know how to do it, and a little button on it. But yeah. All right. So what is a seed phrase? Remember, I said when we create a wallet, the wallet is created from a seed phrase. Seed phrase is also known as a mnemonic or a secret phrase. It is usually a 12 or 24 word phrase of seemingly random words that are used to generate cryptographic private keys in your wallet. If your software or hardware wallet gets lost or destroyed or wiped, your seed phrase can recover access. So as long as you have those 12 or 24 words, you can lose your device and your money is not at risk. You can think of your seed phrase as the mold from which your wallet's private keys are cast. Your seed phrase should never, ever, ever be stored in a digital manner. Write it physically down. Make a copy of it. Do not take a picture of it. Do not upload it to any cloud providers. Write it down, make a couple copies, and put that in preferably multiple geographic areas. So if you got a safe at home, put it in the safe. If your parents or sister, brother, whatever, have a safe, someone that you trust, you can put it in there so that if your house burned down, you still have those words in another place. But do not put it on any type of digital storage. Because someone gets that, it's gone. It's good as gone. So anyone with access to your seed phrase can basically cast a new key and steal your crypto without a password. So, private keys. Private keys are the primary piece of information that is used by your wallet to create a transaction. Your private keys are like the key to your digital safe. The private keys are what give you the ability to spend your crypto assets. You will probably never even see your key, your private key, nor will you directly use it. But the wallet will use the private key anytime it transacts with a blockchain network. So it's important to know that it's there, but you won't actually use it directly, most likely, unless you get really complicated, like
Code, right? So
yeah, that would be like crypto 401, not 101. So your private key is like a signature on a check. If the signature on your check doesn't match what's on record at the bank, and if the teller at the bank is doing what they're supposed to, the check will not clear. So if you're trying to interact with a wallet, the private key is not correct, the transaction is going to fail. So one of the most famous sayings in all of crypto is not your keys, not your coins. This is specifically referring to the risk incurred by using custodial wallets, because you don't have control over those private keys. So what is an address? An address, well, seed phrases generate private keys, and private keys generate addresses. An address can be likened unto an account number at a bank, or an account. Crypto assets are associated with addresses, and whoever controls that address or has the private keys for that address, they control that crypto. Wallets can have several or many addresses that they control. You can generate as many addresses as you want. You don't need to, there's no costs or approval required from a centralized authority. Addresses appear to be random strings of letters and digits, but they often do have a unique prefix, a prefix that is unique to the blockchain that the address is for. Anyone with your address can deposit crypto into it without your permission. Just like if I have your account number and I know where you bank at, I can put as much money into your bank account as I want without your permission, because there's no liability there. All the liability is on me giving that account money. But only those that have the private keys can actually withdraw from that address. Keep in mind that anyone with your address can also see your balances and every transaction that you've ever completed using a blockchain explorer. Now, some may be put off by this fact at first, but this is actually a feature of blockchain, and it is the means by which that these systems can remain trustless. So, hashtag NYKNYC. Yeah. All right, so what's an on or off ramp? These are generally known as these are also known as gateway exchanges. It is a primary entry and exit point to get into and out of crypto. In order to buy crypto, you must use your fiat currency to exchange said fiat currency into cryptocurrency. When selling cryptocurrency, you exchange your crypto for fiat currency. Different on or off ramps support different cryptocurrencies, although all support the major crypto currencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum. And several will also offer stablecoins. So using a reputable on or off ramp is important, as they are technically custodial wallets. You don't retain the keys. That is the case until you withdraw your crypto into another wallet in which you do control the private keys. Any reputable on or off ramp will require you to complete a process called Know Your Customer, or KYC, and and also an anti-money laundering process known as AML. These are required for regulatory compliance, and they often require uploading proof of identity documents similar to those that you would need to open up a bank account. They want to make sure you're not a terrorist funding ISIS, that type of thing. So on or off ramps include Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, and Bittrex. There are many more than that too, but those are a few off the top of my head. So what is an admin key? Some cryptocurrencies have been created with admin keys. This is like a master key held by the cryptocurrency founder. The justifications for founders having admin keys varies from being able to recover stolen funds to fixing bugs. But as discussed before, private keys are like a key to your digital safe. Using the same analogy, an admin key held by a crypto founder is like a skeleton key that can access anyone's safe that contains that founder's tokens. So they can't necessarily take everything, but they can take what they created. So their cryptocurrency, and there are valid reasons for these. This creates counterparty risk, and it should be avoided whenever possible. It comes down to how much you trust the founder, as a crypto project with admin key is not totally trustless. So an example, pretty much all stablecoins have admin keys, and they must do that in order to mainly be able to recover stolen funds. So fiat currency. Fiat currency is a type of currency that is not backed by any commodity such as gold or silver, and it is typically declared by a decree from the government to be legal tender. Examples include the US dollar, Canadian dollar, etc. At this point, every currency in the world, except the Russian ruble, which is now backed by gold, is a fiat currency. Fiat currencies are printed out of thin air by central banks, such as the Federal Reserve Bank, creating more supply, and this devalues the existing supply because of the inflation. Printing money is the one and only reason that inflation occurs, and therefore debasement. What is the Federal Reserve Bank? Federal Reserve Bank is the United States Central Bank. It's a private institution that took over the management of the U.S. monetary supply in 1913, prior to which there was no such thing as income tax. The central bank is neither federal, as in government run and it has no elected officials, nor does it have any reserves. The Federal Reserve Bank issues Federal Reserve notes, which are not to be confused with the United States dollar. The U.S. government agreed to allow Federal Reserve notes to be exchanged for lawful money, U.S. dollar, at a 1-to-1 ratio. This distinction is important to understand when it comes to taxation, but that would be for a different class. Central banks, such as the Federal Reserve Bank, want to create something called CBDCs, or a digital dollar, to extend their control. Central banks are private institutions that create and manage the supply of fiat currencies, typically owned and operated by a handful of ultra-wealthy elite that pull the strings of all governments that issue fiat currencies. There is a quote by a man named Mayer Amschel Rothschild that lived in the 18th century into the early 19th century, and he said, "Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws." That's how much control they have over the governments. So CBDCs, central banks want to create CBDCs. These stand for central bank digital currencies. Though none of these are in circulation yet, essentially these would be a centralized programmable money on a blockchain. So this is not a decentralized, these would be centralized digital assets, and they would be tied to a social credit score. In my mind, there's no doubt in my mind that CBDCs will be the mechanism by which the Antichrist system of Revelation 13:17 implements the no man may buy or sell save he had the mark. This control would be implemented using admin keys, which could remove somebody's money at will. Soaring values would likely be used as bait for those to get without the mark to get it. Using decentralized currencies is the only way that we can fight this effort. Centralized is the enemy of decentralized. So central banks are essentially exerting much more control than they should be. Decentralized currencies are the only mechanism by which we have to fight that.
So in crypto terms, they're wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yes, sir. Very much so. Next one.
Not my Dogecoin.
All right. So what's an exchange? An exchange is a tool, usually a website or a wallet, that allows you to trade one crypto asset for another, or fiat into crypto, crypto into fiat. Most exchanges are centralized, which means that you do incur some counterparty risk while using them, especially if you store your crypto assets in their custodial wallets for an extended period of time. Many exchanges will try to incentivize users by offering a 5 to 10% yield or interest for those that are staking their crypto assets in their custodial wallets. Doing this can be likened unto picking up pennies in front of freight trains. Users of services like BlockFi, Voyager, Celsius, with yield programs similar to that which I just mentioned, have all been rugged, and users end up wrecked. Remember, if you are in a position where you are not the only one that controls your private keys, not your keys, not your coins. What is yield? Yield is essentially passive income earned as interest by staking, or from fees earned by being a miner or a validator or a liquidity provider. Earning yield increases your overall cryptocurrency holdings, not necessarily dollar value, depending on volatility, but your cryptocurrency holdings do increase through yield. So what does rugged mean? Rugged is really some crypto slang. It refers to the past tense of the act of a dishonest crypto founder or organization exit scamming and leaving their users holding empty bags or bags of crypto worth nothing. If they hold, 90% of the crypto, they sell it all, essentially it'll go to zero, and whatever people were holding will not be worth very much. Fortunately, this happens all too often, even with large companies like those mentioned above, BlockFi, Voyager, Celsius. These are all companies that have recently, just in the last month, literally declared bankruptcy and stolen literally billions of dollars. What is wrecked? Wrecked, spelled R-E-K-T, is slang for, I would say, wrecked. It's the result of getting rugged, or making a terrible trading choice, or making some other type of big mistake. Definitely not a state you want to be in, and that is dramatically, you have a higher chance of getting wrecked if you are not the one holding your private keys. And you want to limit your exposure to cryptos with admin keys so that you don't end up wrecked either. So HODL is another popular crypto acronym. It actually stands for hold on for dear life. So despite the potential temptation to sell, those with what we call diamond hands or strong hands exhibit strength to continue to hold an asset during volatile price actions. All right, what is a DeFi exchange? Well, a DeFi exchange is a decentralized finance exchange, and it is a highly favorable decentralized alternative to a centralized exchange. A DeFi exchange is a collection of smart contracts called an automated market maker, where you can swap your tokens. DeFi exchanges are trustless and allow you to remain in complete control over your private keys. A small trading fee is charged for their service, which goes to the owner of the DeFi exchange. And examples of these would be Uniswap, SushiSwap, OneInch.io, and the upcoming Pulse X. What is swapping? Swapping sounds just like what it is, but it's essentially you send your crypto assets to a smart contract and you receive other tokens of your choice according to the current exchange rate determined by the automated market maker. So this is what people think it's like to hodl, but it's actually a lot harder than it looks when your balance of your portfolio dipped by 30% overnight. But it's worth it. If you can hodl, you'll have much better gains. All right, so what is a market maker? Sorry, an automated market maker, or AMM. This allows digital assets to be traded in a trustless and automatic way using something called liquidity pools, instead of traditional markets of buyers and sellers. On a centralized exchange platform, buyers and sellers, two separate parties, offer up prices for an asset in an order book. When other users find listed price to be acceptable, someone will execute a trade and that price becomes the asset's market price. Essentially, one user is buying, one user is selling. Seller says, I'll sell it to you for this much. Buyer says, deal, and there's an exchange that occurs.
Before we get off that page, so I happen to see the slang term wrecked.
Yes, correct.
Or wreck my chances.
Huh.
If I have to get up and leave, I have to take Sierra's
Yep.
friends.
It's recorded.
It's recorded.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes.
And will I have your forgiveness and blessing?
Yes,
Okay. Don't shoot me. I'm gonna
No
talk
problem.
bad about me after I'm out.
no problem. Do watch the end, it's better.
Is it better?
Yes, sir.
I've gotten all your suggestions.
Okay.
Do you still provide, if I leave early, do you still provide a free resource?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. So most assets rely on this traditional market structure for trading with buyers and sellers. However, AMMs have a different approach to trading assets. AMMs rely on an algorithm called a constant product formula, which is based on the ratios between the assets in a given trading pair's liquidity pool. Honestly, this topic is way too complicated to talk about in a Crypto 101 class, but if you want to go look into it, I would encourage you to do so. But you don't need to understand how an AMM works in order to understand that it is a far superior method of exchange compared to centralized exchanges, because AMMs are trustless in their nature. All right, so liquidity pools. Liquidity pools go hand in hand with automated market makers. And liquidity refers to how easily one asset can be converted into another asset without affecting its price. So at its core, a liquidity pool is really just a shared pot of tokens. Liquidity providers, which are usually crypto whales, supply liquidity pools with pairs of tokens. And the price of the tokens in the pool is then determined by a mathematical formula. By tweaking the formula, liquidity pools can be optimized for different purposes. And AMMs offer liquidity providers the incentive to supply these pools with assets, and they reward liquidity providers with a portion of the fees collected by the DeFi exchange or the AMM. All right, so what is a crypto whale? Everybody wants to be a crypto whale. Crypto users that have huge amounts of cryptocurrencies. Generally, these are people that got in very early and have made millions and or billions. Whales often have an additional benefit they receive, which is airdrops. Airdrops are essentially free crypto. They are given to whales in order to get visibility. Whales are often under scrutiny because they can affect the price more than other users. And so addresses are often monitored through blockchain explorers, where people can see the holdings and transactions of these whales. So when an airdrop is given to a whale, a person watching that address may see that the whale has a token that they may never have heard of. And then the psychology is that, well, if this whale has it, then maybe I should get some too. In many cases, this free crypto does actually result in having value down the road, although often upfront, not very valuable. So we're going to talk about a few different trading terms, and we're toward the end of our definition section here. So trading terms. First is bullish. Bullish indicates that the participants of a marketplace are optimistic about rising prices, which then causes a feedback loop of more buying, causing prices to rise further. A bullish trend indicates a general upward trajectory in price action. Bearish, it's the opposite of bullish. It indicates that participants of the marketplace are pessimistic about falling prices, which causes a feedback loop of more selling, causing prices to fall further. Bearish trends indicate a general downward trajectory in price action. Price chart. We've seen a few of them. It's a visual representation of an asset's price over time. Usually charts display 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month candles, which are horizontally organized next to each other according to their prices. Red and green usually. The y-axis is almost always representative of time, whereas the x-axis is almost always representative of price. One thing, a pro tip when looking at price charts, you should always use the log feature on the x-axis when looking at a price chart to avoid glossing over historical price action. So what's a candle? Candle is really just a representation of an asset's price within a given time frame. I mentioned most candles are either 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. So this candle shows that amount of time, shows its opening price, or the price at the beginning of that time period, the closing price or the time at the end of that time period, the minimum price during that time period, and the maximum price during that time period. The maximum and minimum values often leave what's called a wick, which is how they earned the name candles. Circulating supply. This is the total number of a given coin or token that is potentially available for purchase. It does not include unminted tokens or coins, which are included in a total supply compared to the circulating supply. Market cap or market capitalization. This is the product of circulating supply multiplied by the last price of an asset. So if there are 19 million Bitcoin and the last price of Bitcoin was $22,000, multiply 19 million by $22,000, that is your market cap. There is a common misconception that market cap is how much money has been invested in a given asset. It is only the last price, not what somebody paid at the time that they bought it. Trading volume. Trading volume is the sum of the price of all buy and sell orders for a given asset, usually within a 24-hour period. This can be used to measure relative amount of trading activity of an asset. Okay, a long. A long is a position taken when someone is bullish. If someone is long, that means that they're expecting the price to rise and they would be probably buying. Short, on the other hand, is a position taken when someone is bearish. Someone is short, means they are expecting the price to fall and are likely going to sell. Margin trading. Margin trading, in the same way that you can go to a bank that would lend you money if you have equity in your house, or a brokerage firm, well, a brokerage firm in the similar way that the bank would lend you money. A brokerage firm or a crypto exchange can lend you money against the assets, the value of the assets in your portfolio. Such funds are called a margin loan, and you can buy them you can use them to buy additional assets. This is one of the quickest ways to lose all your money, because using margin acts as a multiplier. Multipliers in an already volatile market can lead to devastating losses. Losing all your money when using margin is called getting liquidated. All right, that is the end of the terms and definitions, and this, I think, will be the more interesting part. But we need to lay that foundation so that you know what all these things mean. Any questions so far? Yeah.
An address, is that just is that an actual IP address to a server?
It's not an IP address. It's more closely related to a hash. I believe that it is actually the result of a hash function. I believe so. And it's usually up to, like, I think, at least in Ethereum's case, there are 42 characters. Not very human readable. So I
But
can't.
is that converted over to like a DNS so it actually knows
Nope.
where
It's more like an account number. So the blockchain itself knows where that address is, but it's not a physical thing that is pointing to like an IP address. It's not related to a physical anything. It's kind of distributed across the whole internet. Yeah.
What was that one term where if someone's holding like 90% and they sell it all and the value goes to zero?
Rugged. So it's kind of like a rug pull, like if you were standing on a rug and someone pulled the rug out from underneath you. That's kind of the idea.
So so the thing preventing stable crypto, or not stable, but I guess like Bitcoin or more popular cryptocurrencies from that happening, is that just more people?
So the more decentralized something is, the less likely it will be rugged.
Okay.
If it has no admin keys, it's also probably impossible to get rugged. So those are all things that centralization and admin keys, these are things that create risk. And that's a perfect segue actually into tokenomics. So what makes a good crypto project? There's really a lot to think about when considering which cryptocurrencies one should purchase, as there are literally thousands of cryptos, most of which are doomed to fail. It's true. If you invest, you need to do your own research, and you need to be well aware of the fact that there are many, many scams out there. It's just part of the territory. It's kind of the Wild West. There's gold out here, but if you pick the wrong place, pick the wrong cryptos, you can lose your money. So it should not be taken lightly. But my goal is to help you, help show you criteria that would help improve your likelihood of success. Okay, so value propositions of a good crypto. How long has it been around? As stated earlier, Bitcoin was invented in 2010 and has had millions of percent gains. Coins that have been around for a long time are less likely to have more mad gains. From 2017, all-time high of 20,000, to its 2021 all-time high, Bitcoin went from $20,000 to $69,000. Now that's a large jump, That represents a 345% increase from peak to peak. Compared to traditional investments, these types of returns are amazing. However, compared to newer cryptos, Bitcoin is definitely losing momentum. There are tokens that have returned over 1,000,000% in the last 3 years compared to Bitcoin's 345%. So if you're looking for something that has, I'm assuming people are interested for making gains, Bitcoin's potentially a little bit more shy on its gains. So usefulness or utility. There are many meme coins out there, such as Dogecoin and Shiba Inu. These coins were literally created as a joke. They were making fun of the fact that anybody can create a random cryptocurrency and people buy it. And people did buy it. And the price went up. Many of these coins have achieved 10,000% gains, despite the fact that they have no real utility. Investing in meme coins, in my opinion, is a gamble. On the contrary, coins that have a purpose, such as Ethereum or Pulse Chain, add value, and they create entirely new ecosystems that have network effects. So, does it have an admin key? As mentioned earlier, admin keys introduce counterparty risk. Sometimes it can be difficult to determine if a coin has admin keys, though, unless you know how to read code. But there are many technically savvy folks that will post information about blockchains, and search engines can help you find more information about whether a project has admin keys or not. In general, you should avoid projects with admin keys unless you have information to justify why you should give your trust to the project founders. So yield. Can you earn a passive income using a cryptocurrency? Does the crypto support mining or staking? As mentioned before, mining often requires expensive hardware, but it can be a nice way to generate passive income through mining rewards. Staking, on the other hand, doesn't require the expensive hardware, and it still allows you to earn yield on the tokens that you lock up. Keep in mind, unstaking often is time delayed, which may prevent you from selling a volatile price movement. So if the price just starts tanking, you're kind of locked in until whenever that time delay is over. If you're staking, you should always make sure that you retain your private keys so that you're not picking up pennies in front of freight trains. Being a liquidity provider is another way that you can earn yield and residual income, although in this case, you run the risk of impermanent loss, which is a more advanced topic. The next value propositions is the currency inflationary or deflationary? Some cryptos are inflationary, where the supply continues to increase until its maximum supply has been reached. In theory, this would mean that the value would decrease, but that's only true if the rate at which it's inflating exceeds the rate of buyers buying. Nevertheless, inflationary tokens do result in slight dilution or debasement. There are cryptos, though, that are deflationary. These start with a large total and circulating supply, and for every transaction that is sent, some of that total supply is destroyed, making the crypto a little more scarce all of the time. These burned tokens are usually taken from the portion of the gas or the network fee. Limited versus unlimited. In the case of inflationary cryptos, some have a limited supply, like Bitcoin's 21 million, while others have an unlimited supply, such as Ethereum. Limited supplies make me a little bit nervous because there's nothing to stop crypto founders from doing the same thing the central banks are doing, printing to infinity. But most unlimited supply tokens do have a limit on the amount that can be minted during a given year. So there's kind of like a time limit. And then the last thing to consider, probably not the last, it's not exhaustive, but these are the major things. Last thing to consider as value proposition for good cryptocurrencies, whether it has good game theory or something called fundamentals, which is any consideration that would make a crypto stand out from the crowd. Founders can implement all kinds of levers and incentives that they would make to prospective buyers to do a double take. Given the right levers, educated buyers can leverage strategies to make the crypto more profitable. You can consider this a crypto's X factor that is designed to make the price increase faster. So, how do you find treasure? In theory, you would take a combination of all of these things. To maximize the chances of having a great crypto pick, you would want it to be relatively new, so it has lots of upside potential. It should be supported by a large dedicated following. It should be useful. It should not have admin keys. You should be able to earn passive income with it. It should be deflationary. And it should have some interesting game theory or fundamentals. So, what are my favorite cryptos? By no means is any of this a recommendation or financial advice. There are lots of good crypto projects out there, but these picks are the result of years of experience and learning from hard knocks. While I will not disclose my crypto portfolio's dollar value for the sake of transparency, I will give you the percentage distribution of my portfolio so you can kind of see what I believe in more than others relative to the others. And I'll give you basically why I like each crypto. Okay, so the first is called Hex. This makes up 43% of my portfolio. It was invented by a man named Richard Hart, and it was released in December 2019. Ticker symbol is Hex. Hex is an inflationary ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain. It was designed to replace the certificate of deposit at a bank, which would normally offer 2 to 3% interest. And instead, Hex offers stakers up to 38% interest, which compounds year after year. Stakers can stake anywhere from 1 to 5,555 days. Nick, this is going to be recorded, so if you want. It operates using a trustless smart contract, which issues the interest. You retain complete control over your private keys, so there is no counterparty risk. When you stake Hex, you are paying yourself interest by delaying your gratification. Ending a Hex stake early can result in big penalties and loss of some or all of your principal. All of the inflation is distributed to the stakers according to how much and how long their stakes are. That inflation inflates at a rate of 3.69% per year, and that 3.969% gets distributed across those that have locked up their coins, according to how much and how long they have locked it up. Staking is not required, though. But if you don't stake your Hex, you get diluted. Basically, the inflation starts debasing the value of yours. Although, as the price of Hex increases, you probably make up for that. But the benefit of not being staked is you get to sell whenever you want. So it has no admin keys, and the inflation is capped at 3.69. Einstein was once quoted as saying, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays for it." Hex has had 3 audits, which is most than most cryptocurrencies out there, making it very secure. Since its launch in December 2019, Hex increased in value 1 million%, making its all-time high in September 21 at 52 cents. However, on its way to its all-time high, Hex dipped more than 60% several times, always recovering to make a new all-time high. Price at the time of writing is around 4 cents, and this represents around a 93% dip from its all-time high in September last year. I don't know if you can see that, but essentially these are the dips over time. So you can see it's pretty significant dips over time, but still, even regardless of those dips, it has increased 1 million % in less than 3 years. Even at its current price, Hex is up 247 times compared to Bitcoin and 58 times compared to Ethereum and 699 times versus the US dollar, all since January 5th, 2020, which was its all-time low. All right. This is Hex's price chart in US dollars. You can see that it's mostly up and to the right, although we're significantly down at this point. And this is Hex's chart compared to Bitcoin, which shows that Bitcoin has made gains on top of Bitcoin over that same period. So if you had Bitcoin, you would have been better essentially holding Hex because the price versus Bitcoin has gone up. All right, so second cryptocurrency is called Pulse Chain. This represents currently only 4% of my portfolio. And I'll explain why that is in a minute. But this was also invented by Richard Hart, and it is soon to be released. It is not actually out yet. The ticker symbol is PLS, and Pulse Chain is a duplication or exact copy of Ethereum with no admin keys. They took this copy of Ethereum and they made many improvements, including making the network proof of stake. So it's using a different consensus mechanism compared to Ethereum, which is currently proof of work. So this means that there's extremely cheap gas fees, much higher bandwidth to keep the network fast. But not only is the Ethereum infrastructure being copied over and improved on, the entire system state is copied, which means that all tokens, NFTs and ERC20 tokens that are on the Ethereum network are being copied over, and you will have a free copy on the Pulse Chain network. This results in a very unique game theory. It's a massive, first of its kind airdrop. Not only do the whales get them, but everybody that has any Ethereum tokens gets these free tokens on the Pulse Chain network. So this creates an immediate incentive for Ethereum users that are sick and tired of paying $15 to send a transaction. It gives them incentive to start using this new blockchain because they have these coins already on there. Because it is a copy of Ethereum's network, its usefulness is huge. Developers can build on top of it, and now very cheaply. So currently, a test version of the blockchain exists, which is what I hope to be practicing with next lesson, which you don't want to miss. Pulse Chain is a limited supply deflationary token. So every time a transaction is sent, a small amount of network fees is burned. This means that it only becomes more rare. The law of supply and demand says that as supply decreases, value does increase. It supports staking, so you can also earn yield for arbitrary day stakes with no penalties for unstaking. So unlike Hex, you're locked in for a period of time. You basically make a promise, say, I'm going to do it for this many days. If you don't fulfill that contract, you get penalized. Pulse Chain, you can stake with arbitrary day stakes. You don't have to pre-specify a date or time. You can just stake and unstake whenever you want. But you're only earning yield while it's staked. There is no current way to acquire Pulse Chain because the network has not launched yet. But for those that knew about it more than a year ago, there was a 5-day window of opportunity to sacrifice crypto in support of free speech. In order for that, in return for that political statement, sacrificers are awarded 10,000 Pulse tokens for each $1 sacrificed. So I participated in that sacrifice, which is the way that I'm calculating this 4% of my portfolio. And I do plan to significantly increase my holdings of Pulse Chain when it does launch.
When does it launch?
TBD. It was supposed to be mid-May. We're mid-July. But software is hard. They are essentially making improvements. They were ready to launch, and the test network is working. So it's actually a working copy of Pulse Chain, but the tokens on the test network are monopoly money. So when it does launch, that's when it will have real value. But they found some exploits that they, instead of launching a network that would have known exploits that could be taken advantage of, they decided to make sure it was fixed beforehand, which I appreciate, because it's like people are storing value on there. They want to feel safe with that on there. All right, so since it is not yet available, the question is, well, what's the potential for it? So how high can Pulse Chain go? This is a list of other projects that are competing with Ethereum. So these are all other blockchains that have been kind of termed Ethereum killers, none of which have actually killed Ethereum. The thing is, all of these launched empty. So there was no copy of the system state. So this basically gave no incentive for users to draw in existing Ethereum users. However, Pulse Chain making this, providing an incentive, I would imagine you're going to have more users coming over. Most of these projects are inflationary. They have very little game theory, and they were poorly marketed. Even with that being the case, on average, these projects had a more than 65,000% gain in 1.4 years. So if history repeats itself, and I believe this and more with Pulse Chain is possible given that additional incentive and the fact that it's deflationary and the fact that you can earn yield. These are all additional components to the game theory of Pulse Chain that I think will make it a very successful token.
So you could take $1 and turn it into $65,000.
Yes, sir. Well, okay, so this is 65,000% gain. So the actual X would be 656.
Okay.
This is average though. I don't know. So Richard Hart, that is developing Pulse Chain, well, his team is, he basically designed it to do a 10,000x, which is far greater than any of these. But I mean, if we even just look at on a more conservative side, other projects that weren't marketed as well, they're inflationary, don't have game theory, they did this. So if you just extrapolate that, I would consider this, I mean, I can't make promises, but I would consider this a minimum. But it's depending on what your time frame is, because people are going to FOMO in, fear of missing out, like they're just going to jump in, probably drive the price sky high when it launches, and then people that have a lot, they're just going to dump it down, may even go lower than what it launched at. So if you can be patient,
So
buy the dip.
you're saying don't FOMO and wait for people to dump?
So if you don't have it, you can't hodl. If you it may not dump is the problem. So there's a recommended strategy called dollar cost averaging. Let's say you have $1,000. Basically, like when it dips or when it increases a certain percent, and you should just go learn, everybody should learn what dollar cost averaging is. You basically split up that $1,000 that you have, and you're buying over time. It's time-based instead of, it's time and price-based, but it's not buying purely on the consideration of price. So you're basically distributing your purchase over a period of time, which on average, if there's dips and peaks, then you're going to have an on average better price, usually. All right, next one that I'm super excited about, PulseX. This makes up 14% of my portfolio. It's also another cryptocurrency invented by Richard Hart. You may notice a pattern here. It's going to be released at the same time as PulseChain. Its ticker symbol is PLSX. PulseX is a DeFi exchange. So it's a decentralized exchange. You get to keep your keys. It can be staked to earn yield in other cryptocurrencies, not PLSX. Most cryptocurrencies, when you stake them, you earn the token that you stake. PulseX is different. You would earn a different cryptocurrency when you stake it. It does not have admin keys, and it has incredible game theory. Being a DeFi exchange, every time someone swaps into one crypto for another, a significant portion of the fees, which are higher than a normal transaction fee. Okay, so a trading fee on a DeFi exchange is a higher percentage fee than a transaction fee. A portion of those fees goes toward buying the PulseX token at the market price. That PLSX token is then destroyed, which makes it deflationary. It's deflationary at a higher rate than PulseChain. This means it will only become more rare. For illustration purposes, imagine that a small percentage of every trade made on the New York Stock Exchange resulted in the purchase of Apple stock. What's going to happen? Even if no one else is buying it, Apple's stock is going to be going up little by little. Sellers of Apple stock can and would take profit, so they would sell for profit. And this would create downward corrections, so it's not like it's a purely upward trend only. But for the most part, the stock would continue to increase in price. But knowing this, investors would want to acquire Apple stock for themselves because the constant buy pressure from these little by little trades almost guarantees price increases, regardless of how well Apple actually performs. So you have a system automatically buying, you have users wanting to buy because the system's purchases are constantly increasing the rate, increasing the price.
So can you buy PulseX now?
Not yet. Very similar to
It's very similar to GameStop as far as the constant buy-in.
well, GameStop, if you look at its price now, it doesn't look too hot.
No, but during that trend.
During that trend, yes, but this is a more built into the system, and there won't be an end. This is perpetually that the system is designed in a way that it won't stop buying PulseX. What will eventually happen, given enough time, the volume of PulseX available for sale will decrease to such a small amount, so the liquidity of the asset available for sale will decrease to such a small amount that in order to purchase one, the price would be astronomical. And those that are not willing to sell, they're hodling, the value of those tokens is huge.
So you would buy something like this or Hex or whatever through Coinbase wallet?
Can't. Yeah, that's where those AMMs come in, or the decentralized exchanges. Those are the only places that you can currently get them. But we're going to play with that next week. Or not next week, but next class.
So, and the only way to get PulseX,
So
other than straight buying it, is to do a trade.
yes, but I've got a little bit more that I want to say on it, and then I'll answer your question.
Okay.
So, so PulseX is the same as the example of the New York Stock Exchange buying Apple. Every time someone makes a trade on PulseX, which is an exchange, decentralized exchange, a little bit is bought and then destroyed, creating reduced supply, increasing price. There is no current way to acquire PulseX, as it has not launched yet. But similar to PulseChain, in December 2021, there was a 30-day window of opportunity to sacrifice crypto in support. Instead of PulseChain was the freedom of speech, PulseX was to support the freedom of movement, or the right to assemble. In exchange for that political statement, sacrificers will be awarded 10,000 PulseX tokens for each $1 sacrificed. So at this point, you can't get it. if you had participated in that sacrifice at the time, you're basically guaranteed a certain number of them moving forward, but if you want to buy PulseX when it does launch, you're going to have to buy it from one of the people that sacrificed. So you're market buying
So
it.
it's already in demand. Like,
Yes.
they've already controlled.
Now there's kind of a meme in Richard Hart's followers because for months and months it was always 2 more weeks, and there are people that are they over leveraged themselves, maybe borrowed money with the promise that it was supposed to be launched at a certain time. No one knows what's going to happen. There are some people that think that a bunch of people are going to dump as soon as it launches because they need the money. Other people are just waiting for that to happen so they can buy it all up. There was another unique thing that happened. There was actually like a weighted volume bonus during these sacrifice phases for both PulseChain and PulseX that gave a multiplier. So the person who sacrificed the most received a 2.5x multiplier. So instead of 10,000 for each $1, you get 25,000. And the biggest sacrifice, I believe, was around $30 million.
Are you serious?
Yeah. All in all, PulseChain and PulseX, I believe, close to $1 billion
Already?
was sacrificed. Yeah, you can't sacrifice anymore. You could. You're really throwing your money to the window. I wouldn't do that.
Just another way Elon Musk had his portfolio.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I mean, those kind of holders are definitely whales. Well, I think most of the people that sacrificed big were people that held Hex, because Hex launched 2 years earlier. So they made a ton of money, 1,000,000% gains that make $30 million. I mean, you only had to put in 300. You only had to put in $300 to turn $300 into 30 million. So, so those are the types of people, and they already have confidence in Richard Hart's projects because they've already made so much money. And most people that weren't aware of Richard Hart's projects, they're ignorant. They just don't know about. The sacrifice was such a short period, 30-day window, 5-day window. Not much time to get the news out. All right, so what can PulseX do? Since we don't have an actual price chart, these are comparable decentralized exchange projects that have already launched. However, none of these have buy and burn tokenomics. Most of these projects are inflationary. They have little game theory, poor marketing, but on average, these projects had a 52,000% gain, which is a 520x. And if history repeats itself, I think that this and very much more is possible with PulseX. Almost guaranteed.
So other than buying it outright from the people who already own it,
Can't.
that's the way to get it.
There is no other way to get it.
Okay, so that means you have to trade, right?
You're,
To perform a trade to get PulseX.
yes.
So then why would somebody not set up 2 accounts and just trade with yourself?
Because you're paying fees every time.
But you're also getting
No.
PulseX.
So
If you're the owner of both accounts.
I don't know if I understand the question.
So like I have whatever account and I have this account.
Yeah.
But I want to trade between them just to buy PulseX because anytime I use that platform, I'm buying PulseX.
So if this account has $100
Yep.
and it uses that $100 to buy this PulseX for $100, that's just going to move it here. So then this guy has $100, this guy has PulseX.
So you have both accounts. You're essentially paying yourself.
You're not
Yes.
actually gaining extra
You're not gaining anything because only like $99.50 is worth of PulseX is going to come over here because you're paying probably, I don't know what the percentage fee is, but maybe 50 cents to buy it. And then if you want to buy it back, then you're only getting 99. So you're actually losing money by doing that.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the currency exchange between
Are we
fiat
right?
and digital currency? Does that change a lot? during this? Because, I mean, you could keep investing, it can keep going up, it goes up 51,000%. But what is that actual, what's PulseX to $1?
This is all this is against $1. So this, if you put in $1, you would have seen a 519 times. So $1 becomes $519.
Okay. I didn't know if that was just within PulseX or if that was.
No, these would be competitors to PulseX. So the idea of this slide is really to draw attention to the potential of PulseX, what it could do.
So if I were to put in $100 and it went up that percentage there, then that would be $519,000 or whatever the hell.
Well, no, this is percent, this is times. So percent, you take away two digits, becomes the times.
You're talking millions.
It's percent.
So if you put in, how much did you say?
$100.
If you put in $100,
$100,
500,
5,000.
that's like $50 million.
no, it would be a 519,000.
So like 51,966
$1.
You put $100 in, it would become $51,966.
Yes.
Not the zero.
I thought you were talking about the ratio.
And then this is the time frame. So this is under a year. This is just under a year that it did those types of multiplications.
I could potentially, from what you've seen here, put in $1,000 into that, and within a year, potentially.
I'm not promising. I don't have some crystal ball, but the data shows that this is potential, and I believe it has much more potential than these.
So that would be the base.
What do you mean by? I think so. That's opinion, right? Make your own decisions based on your own research.
51,000. That's
Well,
pretty
Pulse.
nice.
If we look at Pulse Chain, this is even greater.
Yeah.
But both of these projects, I think, have amazing potential. All right, so the next one is called XRP, or also goes by Ripple. Ripple is really the parent company that issues the XRP token. This makes up 13% of my portfolio. It was invented by Ripple Labs. It was designed for cross-border settlements. In the current banking world, sending money across borders is a time-consuming and inefficient process. If you wire money from your local branch, it will leave there, it'll go to a regional bank, goes to the central bank of the country you're in, then goes to the central bank of the destination country, to the regional bank of that destination country, and finally to the local bank of the receiver. A lot of hops. XRP was designed to transfer value in a way that is compatible with the banking system, but it allows transfers from party to party directly without any middlemen. So you could think of this from local bank to local bank, skipping all of the middle steps. This creates a vastly more efficient system. XRP is deflationary. However, it does have admin keys. There are some indications that XRP may be used as the backbone for CBDCs, though. This is only kind of a recent revelation. If that does turn out to be the case, I don't plan on hanging on to it for much longer. Because CBDCs, centralized control, enemy of the people. So on the first day of Biden's residency, the SEC entered into a lawsuit against Ripple, claiming that XRP was a security. The SEC's case is extremely weak, as Ripple has all kinds of prior communication from the SEC assuring them that it is not a security. Despite this fact, the lawsuit has kept the XRP price suppressed since the lawsuit started. And this has made it more difficult to buy XRP because US-based crypto exchanges don't want to be charged with selling securities if the SEC does by chance win the case. Price at time of writing is 36 cents, down 89% from its all-time high of $3.44 in January 2018. This is XRP's chart against the United States dollar. You can see that time frame there was May 2018. These are 1 month candles. Again, these are examples of candles. Use one of these vertical lines is a candle.
So which one's the dollar? Which one's the XRP?
This is the price. This is the price of XRP in dollars. So the x-axis is in dollars,
Okay.
and that's time. So obviously jumped a lot, got up to like $3.44 up top there. Since came down, got as low as 13 cents down here. This is a wick. These top parts are a wick. So in general, went up a lot, but it's still quite far down. Having started at, I mean, if you look at these lower prices here, this is 0.003 cents up to 34 cents, and it's high at $3.44.
So where do you buy that at?
You can buy this, well, you can buy this at a lot of exchanges, but like I said, because of the SEC's lawsuit, the price is suppressed. I believe the lawsuit started right here. So it just kind of tanked from there.
How recent is the information on the CBDC?
I only learned about it within the last month. But I think that the CBDC rollout is going to be it's not going to be like wake up tomorrow and there's the mark of the beast type cashless system.
Right.
It's going to be a process, I think. It'll be the backbone for it, I believe. Could be. And in the meantime, as it heads there, there could be potential for big gains. I don't know this person is in whether they're apostolic or not, but I know that there is a man filled with the Spirit, prophet, that had recounted a dream in which he said he saw XRP price being $70, up from its current 3.4 cents, 34 cents, sorry. Now, you know, whether that turns out to be true or not, I'm not putting all my faith in that, but it's worth mentioning. So, Theta. Theta is my next biggest holding, makes up 11% of my portfolio. Originally invented in 2015 as Silver TV, and then got reinvented and renamed as a blockchain project in 2018. Ticker symbol is Theta. Theta's innovation is set to disrupt today's online video industry, much in the same way that YouTube did back in 2005. One of the biggest challenges in today's video industry has been the high costs of delivering video to various parts of the world, and this problem is only getting bigger with HD, 4K, and higher quality video streams. Theta is creating a decentralized peer-to-peer network that can offer improved video delivery at lower costs by streaming video content from the creators straight to the viewers. Theta has a fixed and limited supply. At the time of writing, it is $1.28, down 91% from its all-time high of $15.60 in March 21. So that is Theta. And this is Theta's price chart. So even though we're down 91%, you can see that we are significantly higher than its all-time low at 0.04 cents, around about there. All right, so Theta Fuel, this is connected to Theta. It makes up 10% of my portfolio. There's a the Theta network has a separate token for its gas or network fee system. So Theta Fuel is basically the token in which you must have in order to send transactions on the Theta network. It is awarded to viewers of the Theta network in exchange for allowing the Theta network to use unused internet bandwidth. Essentially what that means is that as you watch a video, your computer is downloading that video, but then it will essentially re-upload or re-propagate that video to other users. Yes.
So it's like seeding and torque or with.
Yes, very, very similar. So this repropagates video content from viewers' computer while they're watching content. So the T fuel is deflationary. So every transaction makes it a little bit more rare. Price time of writing is 5.8 cents, down 92% from its all-time high of 75 cents in June 21. This is Theta Fuel's chart. Again, up a lot, down a lot too since its all-time high. But these dips, big dips, create big opportunity. All right, then we have smaller percentage of my portfolio, only 3%. This is USD coin. USD coin is a stable coin. Its ticker symbol is USDC. It is an ERC20 token on the Ethereum platform that is pegged to the value of the dollar. So 1 USDC equals 1 US dollar. It is managed by an organization called Circle, which has connections to Coinbase. And they have ties to the traditional finance world as well as to the blockchain world. Its value is backed by a basket of commodities, including cash and US treasuries. USDC is the most audited of the stable coins, so it is the least likely option to get rugged if you are looking to add stability to your crypto portfolio. Does have admin keys though, so don't put all your trust in them, but since they're audited, probably relatively low risk when it comes to the admin key use. As a stable coin, its value doesn't really change unless you consider inflation, and debasement, which is constantly reducing your purchasing power. So given what you know about stablecoins and what we've seen on the charts prior, what do you think USDC's chart is going to look like?
I think
Pretty boring.
Same as dollar.
Now, you'll see that there are some wicks though. And essentially what happens is that if somebody buys $1 million or $10 million worth of, taking a fiat currency dollars, buys $10 million worth of USDC, that will slightly affect the price of USDC until more liquidity can be provided, which then brings the down back to a peg of $1. But for all intents and purposes, I mean, you're looking at like, it'll be worth, I think at the highest point ever, 1 USDC was worth $1.10, but almost always you're 1.1,
ratio.
1 or 0.99. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's $1. All right. Last cryptocurrency we're going to talk about is Digibyte. Makes up 2% of my portfolio. It was originally cloned from Bitcoin in 2014, although it is not nearly widely as known despite several improvements that it made over the Bitcoin system. Its ticker symbol is DGB. And since it originated as a clone of Bitcoin, it is an inflationary coin, but it does have a maximum supply of 21 million coin like Bitcoin. It is much faster. It's almost free to send transactions. It has improved security, and it supports tokens, unlike Bitcoin. That said, it is an older blockchain, so making a comeback may be difficult. You can mine Digibyte with a regular computer though. So for those looking for passive income, you could earn some Digibyte. I hold this coin because it is extremely volatile, and when it does pump, it pumps pretty hard.
What does that mean?
What?
When it pumps hard?
I'll show you in the chart. At the time of writing, yes. Yes, pump means go up much. At the time of writing, it is worth 1.1 cents, down 94% from its all-time high of 18.3 cents in April 2021. This is Digibyte's chart. You see that green?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that represents going from $0.00034 up to almost 6 cents. So, I mean, hundreds of percent gain in that. When you're looking at a log chart, the height of the candle is huge. I may be able to show the difference. I meant to, but I'll show the difference between a log chart and a non-log chart at the end. I just don't have it in the PowerPoint. All right, so as you could tell, my top 3 cryptocurrencies were all invented by Richard Hart. And so just a little bit about him. He is, well, as it says, flashy, arrogant, crass, and kind of a genius. He was born in Florida. He has humble beginnings. He grew up very poor. Despite his poverty, Richard is gifted with an extremely high IQ of 145. By his mid-20s, he was retired, self-made multimillionaire, now billionaire. He made his first fortune in an online marketing business, initially based on spamming people. He was the first person in the United States to be sued for sending spam emails. And in that case, he was fined $500. So pretty negligible, but it's used against him a lot. He gets a lot of hate. Maybe he earned some of it. Despite his questionable tactics, his marketing worked, resulting in his early retirement with $120 million net worth.
You're saying this man invented spam email?
Basically. Like, not necessarily, but he was probably the first to become infamous because of it. So, retired and bored of playing video games and fast food, he started mining Bitcoin. And he started mining Bitcoin before few had even heard of it. Over the next years, his net worth ballooned to over $1 billion. Early on, he was incredibly supportive of Bitcoin. However, after Ethereum was invented, Bitcoin became somewhat obsolete. So he then decided to start his own cryptocurrency, Hex, which is built on top of Ethereum in 2019. His goal is to help people help themselves by doing the thing that is proven to be most profitable: hodling. He has called the Bitcoin all-time high tops on the exact day twice.
Hmm.
So on the day that Bitcoin hit 20,000, he said, this is the top on the day, and it went down ever since that. And then the next time it went up to its high, 65,000, he called the top on the day, said it's only going to go down from here, and it did. So in his attempt to save people from their own mistakes, he has begged people to limit their exposure to counterparty risk through organizations such as the earlier mentioned Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager, that have since run off with billions of their users' money. Richard wants to change the world for good, but he tends to have a chip on his shoulder and gives himself plenty of pats on his own back. He is arrogant, and it does rub people the wrong way, including me at times. Some of the stuff that he says, I just shake my head at. But if you will listen to him, he has extremely compelling arguments and is sending the right message as far as limiting risk and investing in things that are much more likely to be profitable. So I want anybody that can. On the next slide, we have a QR code that I'll give you. It's a 50-minute interview of Richard it was actually streamed yesterday. And so if you can watch that, and if you can look past his sometimes arrogant and confrontational facade, you'll find that he really is one of the only crypto founders that is making any sense in this crazy crypto world. In debates, despite his aggressive debate tactics, he tends to be right a lot. and but he's not afraid to destroy those debating him. So, if you could take a picture of that QR code. If you can't, I'll send out links. Watch that interview. Don't be surprised if there are statements made that rub you the wrong way. There's no cursing, but there may be some things that he's on his better behavior than he normally is. So I wouldn't generally recommend just watching any old Richard Hart thing, because he does tend to cuss a lot, but this does not have any cussing. And it'll actually serve as a good recap for what we've covered today, for a lot of the stuff that we've covered. Next class, I want to do a quiz on the video, and there will be
homework.
yeah, but there will be a prize for the person that can answer the most correct questions. The prize is going to be cryptocurrency, real. So,
I'm gonna fall asleep with the video.
I'll be happy.
all right. So this is hopefully not what happened.
Yeah. No. I'm gonna drive you cigarettes again. So we're good.
All right. So I guess this did go over what I expected, but if you have any questions about anything that we talked about.
I have two questions. So what is, you may have mentioned this, but what is the difference between a candle and a wick on those price charts?
So the wick is if you imagine an actual candle, right? It's got its base, which is fatter, and then you have the wick, which is like a stick above it. So if we go back, I can show you an example here. This is the candle. This is the wick. So this was its maximum price at the time within this period. This is a 1 month candle. So each one of these bars represents 1 month of time. So this is where the start price was at the beginning of the month. The price was this. At the end of the month, the price was this. But during that month, the price got as low as this, and the price got as high as this.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's relative, because the time frame can change. So there's even 1 minute candles.
What's the
So
purpose?
it basically shows you a pattern of price over time. So a larger span of time in a candle will give you a more big picture, whereas when you're looking at really short candles, you're looking more. I don't generally recommend that you look at short-term candles. That's more used for like day traders, like they're trying to make a quick profit, a quick way to lose your money.
And my second question. I think I remember. I just couldn't open my phone just then. But what would you say to naysayers and people who say cryptocurrency investing is too good to be true? Because I thought of that, like.
I'm just going to restate for the recording. So the question is, what do you say to those that say it's too good to be true? Well, look at history. Really, yes, it's a made-up internet money, printed out of thin air, but so is the dollar. It's not backed by anything except by the faith and confidence issued by the government that issues that currency. And so the difference is this is decentralized, which means that not one small tiny group of people get to make the decisions about whether we just print infinite money. A lot of these are either deflationary, meaning they just become more rare, which is great, or they have limited supplies, like Bitcoin's 21 million. It will never exceed that. So cryptocurrencies holds governments accountable because they're doing it right And what it makes it so much more obvious when the governments are doing it wrong. When all you have as a reference is what the governments are doing, it's just every day is the same, or it's just like you don't have anything to compare it to. But when you have something good next to something bad, it just makes the bad thing look so much worse. So yes, it's made up internet money, but it makes more sense because there are these limitations, and the power is removed from a centralized authority.
So in essence, it's basically better to hold that than the dollar, because governments could just raise the dollar if they needed to print
Right.
a lot of money. But
Right, or the situation that I'm most concerned about with the BRICS nations making an agreement with Saudi Arabia to get rid of the petrodollar. Because all of those dollars that are overseas used to buy oil, if they don't need them, that's just going to come back to the US and flood the United States with cash. And it's going to it could end up like Weimar Germany, where they would literally wheelbarrow cash into grocery stores to buy that. And the problem is that inflation at a certain point becomes like it's a very slippery slope. I mean, there's a lot of corruption, and then the value gets debased, and then you end up having to bribe people, which then requires more printing. And think of it this way. We all work for jobs that earn United States dollars, and the amount of effort that we put into that. And these guys controlling the central banks, they just print it. They can print it for themselves in unlimited quantities, and we're having to work for it. This levels the playing field because there's no advantage to one party over the other. Creates a very fair system.
So if you have cryptocurrency, though, how do you buy things? Like, you can't go to Walmart and give them.
Not yet.
So that's kind of the deal. Even if the dollar does tank, what makes shops
So
go to a crypto acceptable currency?
They got Bitcoin ATMs at the mall.
they do, but that's why I said early that Bitcoin really has failed as a currency. To thinking of it in the sense of how a currency is used, which is meant to be as a means of exchange to purchase things, Bitcoin has failed in that. Mainly because it's too expensive to send a transaction. If you send $100, you might pay $5 in fees. Well, that's kind of silly. I mean, right now the merchant pays that. When you swipe your card, they're getting charged a couple percent. Church pays a couple percent or whatever, accepting tithes. So, and I don't think we're ever going to move away from a transaction fee, but $5 is a lot. Pulse chain will be almost free. Digibyte, almost free. XRP, almost free. And very quick. So those types of cryptocurrencies are better suited as currencies because of the quick exchange. There hasn't been mass adoption. But on one hand, that means that we are early enough, because by the time there is mass adoption, then the gains occur through mass adoption. And so if gains are what you're looking for, that is buying before it's common is going to be the ticket to having those gains. I think that there will be a day, though, that cryptocurrencies become norm.
I'm surprised you can't use it on Amazon yet to buy that.
I've noticed when buying music, and it's real subtle, but when I've bought music, it'll say, the button says pay with USD. Now, why would they have to call out the fact that it's United States dollars? Unless they're planning on supporting things that are not United States dollars. So, it's kind of reading between the lines there, but I mean, think about how much technological stuff has happened over the last 10 years. our life has become digital.
Yeah.
Why would our currency not?
True.
It's just a natural progression of what is already happening. And so I think that the banks want it to be the CBDCs,
Yeah, because they're going to be out of a job if it doesn't.
right? But then it's just extenuating the existing circumstances, just using different means that they can turn off. So if they have admin keys and they don't like what you say, they can do just what they did to the Canadian People's Banks. So
What question? I have questions about hardware. What is your opinion on that?
okay, so the question is, okay, so this is a keystone. So what this is, that is a titanium plate
Mm-hmm.
upon which you can store your seed phrase,
Mm-hmm.
which is great because remember I said you do not want to store your seed phrase in any type of digital format.
Right.
I recommended that you write it down and that you make a copy and that you put that in 2 different places.
Mm-hmm.
What that is it's a plate that you can write your seed phrase on it. It has a spot for a padlock so that you can put that in a safe, but if your house burns down, that will not be destroyed. So it's just a more durable way of storing your seed phrase, but it's not actually a wallet. That would be used to restore your wallet.
Right. Yeah. So this is the other one I was talking about. It's called Arculus.
Okay, so this is actually a wallet.
I think it uses RFID.
Probably.
So this looks like it's a hardware wallet in the format of a credit card. It looks like it may have a physical button on it.
You flip it over and you just put the back of the card in your phone.
Yeah, so I mean,
But
I've never heard of it.
It's a three authentication. So you have to do that. Then you have to have if you have Apple phone, you have to have your Face ID. You
Okay.
can access that after
Yeah.
that.
So I've never heard of it. Going with the hardware wallet that I've never heard of, I'm not saying it's bad. I can't give an honest opinion on it,
Okay.
but I have heard of Cool Wallet Pro. Like if you search that,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a similar price, and that has it has more of a reputation to the extent that I've heard of it, whereas I have not heard of that one.
What about Crypto Tag?
Never heard of it.
That's the one my brother uses.
So Ledger and Trezor are by far the most well-known and useful, I would say. Like they're a little bit more expensive,
Mm-hmm.
but they're
Okay.
great
I
devices.
see the Cool Wallet Pro you're talking about.
Is that the one you have as Ledger?
I have a Ledger Nano X. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so it's got an actual chip inside of it.
Which?
The Cool Wallet Pro.
Oh,
And it's got a screen and a button.
How do they do that? It's crazy.
that
Oh.
depends.
Same thing as the chip on a credit card, right? Or bank card.
But the screen in that small.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
See the screen?
Oh, was it?
No,
All right, for the recording's sake, I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is really just the notes from this lesson. Like if you want the text that I was reading from, that QR code can be used to get, which would be most useful for a list of definitions. Like if you come across a definition that you can't remember what it is, the notes from the lesson will contain all those. And it's the thank you slide and the last meme for the day. It's Noah waiting. Get on the ark. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.